guys, welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to show how to get dewy, luminous skin, whether you're oily or dry. Now this is going to help those of you that are oily. I do have some tricks to help keep that luminosity. Now everyone is different, so the amount of steps is going to pertain on the person's skin type completely. And if you know something works for you, definitely stick with it, and you could try something new if you wanted to also see if it worked for you. But this has worked for me in the past, and I just wanted to share with you guys what works for me in case anyone was looking. So let's get started. Alright, to start off, this is the Hangover Primer. It's basically like a nice lightweight moisturizer, but this is going to give us that nice glowy primer finish that we want. And it actually is really good for oily skin as well. Now I also recommend, depending on what you're doing, you know, during your day, use another primer for your T-zone if you get oily. I notice sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. In this area, if it's a very, very long day, I definitely will. But with this primer, that's all I'm going to use. But I normally would be using my Benefit Professional. Next, I'm going to be mixing my foundation and a liquid highlighter. This is going to give us that dewy skin. I'm first going to do my foundation. Is the All Day Luminous Weightless Foundation. And this is in Light 3 Gobi. And then for my highlight, I'm going to be taking the Becca Shimmering Skin Perfector. So with those two, I'm going to mix them together on my hand. Now you don't need a lot with this foundation, which is awesome. Super lightweight, but I am going to do a few pumps. And then add equal parts, just like that, of the highlighter. I'm going to mix those together, just because they are two different type of mediums. One's liquid, one's cream. And then I'm just going to kind of bounce on my face where I want to place it. So this foundation is very lightweight, but it actually has a ton of coverage, which is crazy because when it came out, I was like, this is not going to have any coverage, or like if it does, it's going to be a lot of layers, and it didn't take a lot at all. You could choose to put your shimmering primer underneath and then your foundation on top. I sometimes feel like it blocks it out, and then if it's on top, it's almost like too much. So I personally like to mix them together. But if you don't want a ton, then I would recommend doing it underneath. Alright, so I know I'm looking a little bit weird, but now I'm going to get on to concealer. So for concealer, I am going to use the Becca. This is the Ultimate Coverage Cream Concealer, and this is in Banana. Now this concealer is extremely highlighting. Very, very pretty, but because it is a cream, I do have to make sure I set it. How I like to use this product, I like to warm it up with my finger and then press it to where I want it. And you don't need a lot. And then I like to just take a beauty blender and blend that out. Alright, so I'm just going to set my concealer in a little bit around my nose where I know I'm going to be creasing. This isn't going to take away from the luminosity because I want to focus that more on the cheekbone, down the center of my nose, certain places that you would normally highlight. So I'm only going to set where I know I need to for creasing. And I'm just going to use the Kat Von D. Now this is a matte powder, but there's a reason why I'm doing this. I'm going to be just doing the lightest shade. I believe it's called Levitation. Now the reason why I'm doing a matte one opposed to more of a highlighter color, because I was going to use my It Cosmetics airbrush, or no, I'm sorry, It Cosmetics airbrush illuminizer Bye Bye Pores, and this has like more of like a highlight finish, is because I don't want it to look too much. I mean, there's one thing to look dewy, but there's another to look like shiny and just not right. So I don't want like crazy, crazy highlight under my eye and then like crazy on my cheekbone. It's just too much, and you have to put it in the right place to balance it. So again, I'm only doing a light layer. So do as however much is needed for yourself. So I'm just gonna make sure that that doesn't crease, pressing it one more time. And then I'll go in, very light hand, and set it. And I'm stopping to around the end of my eye and then just bringing it a tiny bit down on my nose. That's it. Alright, so for bronzer, same concept. I am actually going to use a matte bronzer, and here's why. So if you use matte and then a highlight, that highlight is going to shine more and that matte is going to look more matte. Now if I had a shimmer bronzer and a shimmer highlight, the whole face gets lost in this shimmer, not even shimmer, but in this highlighty glow, and it's too much. So for that dewiness, you know, you mostly see it on the people right here. That's where we're going to keep that highlight, but it's going to even be more contrasting with that matte bronzer. So I am going to use the Kat Von D contour palette, and I'm going to use the lightest shade because this foundation is a bit deeper than my skin tone already, so I don't want to go even darker with bronzer. And the bronzer is called Shadow Play. It's this middle one right here. I'm only going to use a little bit. So I'm going right underneath that cheekbone. I'm not even going to contour a ton. I'm just placing it there and then really blending it out. And when I say using a light hand, I'm literally like pressing and that's it. I'm not even wiping it. This palette just has a lot of pigment. I'll tap it once and then blending it. Now I'm going to go in with a bigger brush and just blend that out. Okay, so for highlighter, I am going to take, this is the Becca Moonstone, and this is the pressed version. I did use the creamy version earlier, so I'm just going to put a little bit of that on the highest points of my cheekbones. So because we already have that highlight on there, I'm just adding a tiny bit more. Alright, so for blush, I am taking Milani. This is Luminoso. It is just a really pretty peach tone blush. Okay, and then I'm just kind of softening my cheeks a bit because that blush went on strong. Okay, so I know my eyebrows are looking a little scarce, but once I'm done with my eyeshadow, they'll look a little bit more completed. So on to my whole let's use mattes to contrast with the highlights. I recommend taking any matte eyeshadows that you own or a palette that you own that is only mattes. To use a little bit of shimmer is fine, but again, we want the emphasis to be on the skin, not so much our eye makeup. So I'm going to use my new Meet Matte Nude. This is by The Balm. I do encourage anyone to use any matte shades that they want because this doesn't really pertain at all to the whole dewy effect, like what colors I'm using. It's just what ones I'm choosing to use. Okay, and now for lips. Now I'm going to choose something that's not too crazy glossy high shine, but at the same time I don't want like complete matte. I still want it to look juicy or at least more hydrated. So I'm going to take the Urban Decay. This is the lipstick and this is in shade Rush. Okay guys, now that is the finished look. So just to finish off what I was kind of saying throughout the video, that the eyeshadow colors or the lip color or the blush color, any of those colors don't necessarily pertain to making the skin look more dewy or less dewy. But the actual textures of those I feel will contribute. The eyes, again, having, you know, dewy or shimmer on shimmer on shimmer doesn't really help one thing stand out if it's all next to it. So for the eyes, I did chose to go matte. For the cheeks, I didn't want to go completely matte. I did choose Luminoso, so it does have that glow to it, which will help the highlight even more around those cheekbones. The bronzer, I did go matte again because those two next to each other, it's going to make the highlight stand out even more. And then the lip color, this is more of just a nice luster that I chose to have. It is more of that buttery feeling, but it's not crazy glossy, hence we're not losing the emphasis on the dewiness. Now, of course, I would say gloss would be way better than a matte for the lips. because you do, I mean, these are a little bit more separate, but if you did do a gloss, I would just say more on the nude side. Any crazy pop of color, that will be its main focus. You want the main focus on the dewy skin. So thank you guys so much for watching. This can really go for drier, oily skin. Now for me, this is a look that I would do either going out or like at nighttime, or maybe for a small time in the morning, and then if I had to go somewhere else, or I don't know, only had to do something in the morning, I probably would just take it off because it's not gonna work for my skin all day. I just know my skin. So hopefully this works for you. Please let me know what works for you specifically, if it's something different than what I did. Everyone's skin type is different. Some people are super, super dry, some people are super oily or acneic or more mature. So whatever works for you to get your dewy, luminous skin, go for it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!